Yeah, what's the word? Leroy, what's the word? Leroy, hey, what's the word? Leroy, what's the word? Leroy, hey.
Let's start with an honest question. Principles. Are you developing leaders or are you just managing tasks? Because if we're being real, it is very easy to fall into the trap of management. Schedules, coverage, discipline, emails, meetings, checklists. Every single day, there's something that needs your attention. And before you know it, your entire role becomes about keeping things running. Now, don't get me wrong, management matters. Schools need structure. They need organization. They need systems that function. But if all we ever do is manage, we miss one of the most important parts of leadership, developing people. Because here's the reality. A school does not grow because one person works harder. A school grows because more people are capable of leading. Let me paint a picture. You have an assistant principal. They're reliable. They get things done. They handle discipline. They support where needed. So naturally, you give them more. Can you handle this? Can you take care of that? I need you to cover this. And they do it over and over again. But here's the question. Are they growing as a leader or are they just becoming really good at completing tasks? Because those are not the same thing. Let's take it a step further. You have a teacher leader, strong in the classroom, respected by peers, willing to help. So you ask them to lead a meeting. They do it. You ask them to handle a project. They do it. But what happens next? Do you debrief with them? Do you ask, what went well? What would you do differently? How can we build your leadership from this? Or do you just move on to the next task? Because if there's no reflection, there's no development. That's the shift we have to make from delegation to development. Delegation says, I need this done. Development says, I'm using this opportunity to grow you. And that requires intentionality. Let's talk about what developing leaders actually looks like. First, you have to give ownership, not just responsibility. There's a difference. Responsibility is completing a task. Ownership is thinking through the process, making decisions, and learning from the outcome. Instead of saying, handle this situation, you say, walk me through how you're thinking about this. Now they have to process. Now they have to lead. Second, you have to create space for decision making. Not every decision needs to come through you. In fact, if everything runs through you, you've created a bottleneck. Let your AP lead a meeting. Let your teacher leader run a PLC. Let them make decisions, even if it's not exactly how you would do it. Because growth doesn't come from watching, it comes from doing. Third, you have to coach, not just correct. When something doesn't go perfectly, and it won't, that's the moment. Instead of saying, that's not how we do it, you say, let's talk through what happened. What were you thinking in that moment? What would you try next time? Now you're building capacity. Let's bring in a real scenario. An AP handles a discipline situation. Maybe they were too lenient. Maybe they were too strict. Either way, it's not exactly how you would have handled it. You could step in and fix it. Or you could sit down and say, walk me through your decision. What factors did you consider? Here's how I might approach it. Let's think about how we aligned moving forward. Now they've learned. Now they're better for next time. That's leadership development. Fourth, you have to be okay with letting go. This is a hard one because as a principal, you care. You want things done right. You have a vision. But if you hold on to everything, you limit everyone else. Let me say that again. If you hold on to everything, you limit everyone else. Your goal is not to be the best leader in the building. Your goal is to build more leaders in the building. And that requires trust. Now, let's be honest again. This takes time. And time is the one thing you feel like you don't have. It's faster to just do it yourself. It's easier to just make the decision. It's simpler to just fix the problem. But every time you do that, you miss an opportunity to build someone else. So yes, it may take longer in the moment, but it pays off in the long run because now you have more people who can lead, more people who can think, more people who can solve problems. And that changes everything. Let's bring it back to the original question. Are you developing leaders or just managing tasks? Because at the end of the day, your impact as a principal is not measured by how much you get done. It's measured by how many people grow under your leadership. So here's something to reflect on. Who in your building is growing as a leader because of you? Not because of their role, but because of your intentional development. And if that answer is unclear, that's your next step. Start small. Pick one person, one AP, one teacher leader, and be intentional. Give them ownership. Coach them through decisions. Create space for reflection. Because leadership is not about control. It's about multiplication. And when you shift from managing tasks to developing people, you don't just run a school. You build a team that can sustain success long after the tasks are done. So I'll leave you with this. Don't just ask, what needs to get done today? Ask, who am I developing today? Because that answer is what will define your leadership.
Yeah, what's the word? Leroy, what's the word? Leroy, hey, what's the word? Leroy, what's the word? Leroy, hey.